Crag slammed his axe on the hot anvil, pushing the blacksmith's work in progress aside. The haft of the brutal great axe was cracked and split down the middle. The wear and tear from battling the endless hordes of hell had taken its toll, even on this great weapon of destruction. "Repair it, now," Crag demanded. The blacksmith cowered in fear of the tall barbarian. "Sir, I'm working on another client's weapon. I can surely prioritize yours and have it done today." "No!" "But Crag grabbed the man and picked him up by the collar. "This is not a request. This axe needs a new haft. Repair it in the hour, or when I return, I'll use your spine as the new haft." Crag tossed the man to the sandy desert floor. This man was the only blacksmith for miles and miles, and yet Crag let his hatred consume him. His eyes could only see red. He could only see the next battle, the next conflict. As Crag stomped off to find a place to rest, he could hear the blacksmith's saw and hammer, busy at work on his great axe's new handle. The desperate cries of the blacksmith's hammer echoed through the small desert valley, its rhythm providing a song for him to sleep. No dreams, only a void. He laid down in the shadow of the valley wall and let the void take him. Welcome in! I'm echohack, and today we're previewing the Barbarian class. Note that all information in this video is from the press preview access of Diablo 4. It's still early days for D4, and I'll have new videos on the channel when things change, so make sure that you're subscribed. You can find a written version of this preview over on maxroll.gg. Hit the link in the description below for more details. Fellow Maxroll creator Rob is the author of the written guide, so make sure you give him a follow as well. The Barbarian is a staple in the Diablo franchise and returns for glory in Diablo 4. They use overwhelming strength and a mastery of weapons to turn battlefields into wastelands. This overview covers their strengths and weaknesses, skills, passives, legendaries, aspects, and much more. Let's jump right in. The Barbarian has unparalleled strength and expertly wields an entire arsenal in battle, with a weapon for every occasion. He bellows intimidating war cries and unleashes ground-shaking slams to send the approaching hordes reeling. Barbarians are fun to play with fast-paced action and many customization options. Their skills are fueled by Fury, a resource that generates while in battle and slowly depletes over time. All Barbarian skills deal physical damage by default. Alright, let's jump into strengths and weaknesses. First up, strengths. Tremendous damage. Barbarian core skills are devastating, especially when supported by their additional skills and buffs. Berserking. The Barbarian is the only class with the amazing Berserking buff, which gives them 25% increased damage and 30% movement speed. Quick movement. The Barbarian has multiple movement skills and various ways to boost their base movement speed through actives and passives. Can DPS at range or while moving. With skills like Upheaval, Whirlwind, and Call of the Ancients, the Barbarian has many DPS options for different scenarios. Very tanky. Challenging Shout and many bonuses like Fortify make Barbarians hard to bring down. Weaknesses. Fury dependent. Fury depletes over time while out of combat, and the powerful core skills consume it quickly. Long cooldowns. All of your shouts and ultimate skills have long cooldowns. While there are ways to reduce these, they still significantly stall your damage potential in longer fights. Close combat. Most Barbarian builds are melee based, and some elite and boss abilities can be hard to dodge while close by. All alone. Other than Call of the Ancients, Barbarians can't summon pets to DPS or tank for them. Slow early game. Fully powered up Barbarian is one of the scariest opponents you'll ever face, but in the early game, they're slow, mostly due to poor resource generation. The Arsenal system. The Barbarian has the unique ability to equip 4 weapons at the same time. This includes 2 two-handed weapons, bludgeon maces, and slashing swords, polearms, and axes, and dual-wielded one-handed weapons, slashing swords, axes, and maces. They can swap between each of these depending on the ability used, and Barbarian's Arsenal system lets you choose which weapon applies to each ability. The rolled affixes for each weapon are always applied, However, the raw damage per second of a skill is determined only by the attacking weapon in the arsenal system. In other words, your main weapon does your damage and the others are stat sticks. There is one final advantage to holding this many items: more legendaries. Having these extra powers equipped can prove quite useful and may give the Barbarian an advantage as Diablo 4 expands its itemization pool. In addition to equipping these 4 items at the same time, the arsenal system also includes weapon expertise bonuses. These bonuses are automatically available when you reach level 5. Opening the expertise tab with Shift+C shows all the different weapon types and their bonuses when using them. They all start at level 1, but they can be leveled up to level 10 through battle, and they scale linearly. Leveling each of these is simple. Just equip the weapon type that you wish to level up and hit enemies with it. Let's review the complete list of weapon types. First up, we have one-handed axes. Plus 5% increased critical strike chance against injured enemies. Double this amount when using 2 axes. The rank 10 power is Lucky Hit. Critical strikes have up to a 55% chance to grant plus 0.6% increased attack speed for 2 seconds. Double the attack speed bonus when using 2 axes. One-handed maces. Times 10% increased damage to stunned enemies. Double this amount when using 2 maces. The level 10 ability, Lucky Hit. Up to a 10% chance to gain Berserking for 1.50 seconds when you hit a stunned enemy. Double this chance when using 2 maces. One-handed sword. Lucky Hit. Up to a 10% chance to gain 5 fury when hitting a crowd-controlled enemy. Double this chance when using 2 swords. The level 10 ability. Killing a crowd-controlled enemy grants plus 15% increased attack speed for 3 seconds. Double this amount for kills with 2 swords. Two-handed axe. Times 15% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. The level 10 ability. Plus 10% increased critical strike chance against vulnerable enemies. Polearm. Times 10% increased lucky hit chance. The level 10 ability. You deal plus 10% increased damage while healthy. Two-handed sword. Plus 20% of direct damage you deal is inflicted as bleeding damage over 5 seconds. You deal times 30% increased bleeding damage for 5 seconds after killing an enemy. Two-handed mace. Lucky hit. Up to a 10% chance to gain 2 fury when hitting an enemy. Double the amount of fury gained while berserking. You deal times 15% increased critical strike damage to stunned and vulnerable enemies while berserking. Alright, let's jump into the skill tree. Skill points are unlocked by level ups and the renown system. As you spend more points, you unlock more and more categories of skills. Each active skill can be leveled up to 5 times or more with items, increasing their power, usually plus 10% of the base value per point, or reducing their cooldown by 5% with each additional rank. After unlocking a skill, you can enhance it with another point and then choose one out of 2 upgrades to specialize it further. In addition, there are passives found all over the tree, attached as optional choices to certain skill clusters. They grant small bonuses to damage, defense, or utility under certain conditions, and help to round out your build by shifting it further in the direction you want to take. All passives have 3 ranks and usually scale linearly. Alright, let's take a look at basic skills. Basic skills are weak and mostly used to generate fury. When you run out of resources, they are useful to finish off small enemies or to add a little bit of extra damage on an elite or boss while you prepare one of your stronger fury spending attacks. Let's review each basic skill for the Barbarian. Flay. Fury generation 9. Lucky hit chance 50%. Damage type, physical. Flay the enemy, dealing 5% damage. Inflicts 38% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Enhancement. When Flay deals direct damage to an enemy, they take times 10% increased bleeding damage for the next 3 seconds. Upgrade 1, combat. When Flay deals direct damage, you gain 1% damage reduction and 4 thorns for 3 seconds. This stacks up to 5 times. Upgrade 2, battle. Flay has a 10% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Double this chance when using a 2-handed weapon. Bash. Fury generation 10. Lucky hit chance 50%. Bash the enemy with your weapon, dealing 31% damage. After bashing enemies 4 times, your next bash will stun for 1.25 seconds. This increases to 2 seconds if using a two-handed weapon. Enhancement. Damaging a stunned enemy with bash grants you 5% base life. As Fortify, double this amount when using a two-handed weapon. Upgrade 1, Combat. After critically striking 4 times with bash, using a two-handed weapon, your next core or weapon mastery skill will overpower. Upgrade 2, Battle. Damaging a stunned enemy with bash generates an additional 3 fury, or 4 fury if using a two-handed weapon. Lunging Strike. Fury generation, 9. Lucky hit chance, 50%. Lunge forward and strike an enemy for 31% damage. Enhancement. Lunging Strike deals times 30% increased damage and heals you for 2% maximum life when it damages a healthy enemy. Upgrade 1, Combat. Critical strikes with Lunging Strike grant you Berserking for 1.5 seconds. Upgrade 2, Battle. Lunging Strike also inflicts 21% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Frenzy, Fury generation, 5. Lucky hit chance, 30%. Requirement, dual-wielded weapons. Unleash a rapid flurry of blows, dealing 21% damage with each pair of hits. If Frenzy hits an enemy, its attack speed is increased by plus 20% for 3 seconds, up to plus 60%. Enhancement. While Frenzy is granting plus 60% bonus attack speed, it also generates 1 additional Fury. Upgrade 1, Combat. You gain times 8% damage reduction for each stack of Frenzy you currently have. Upgrade 2, Battle. While berserking, your other skills gain 5% attack speed for each stack of Frenzy you have. Alright, let's jump into the core skills. Core skills are the main damaging skills of most Barbarian builds. They spend lots of Fury, but deal much higher damage and hit more targets than basic skills. In addition, core skills can be amplified by multiple legendary effects. Rend, Fury cost, 35. Lucky hit chance, 33%. Requirement, Slashing Weapon. Cleave enemies in front of you, dealing 13% damage and inflicting 101% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Enhancement. Dealing direct damage with Rend extends the duration of vulnerable on enemies by 2 seconds. Upgrade 1, Violent. Rend deals times 12% increased bleeding damage to enemies that are already bleeding. Upgrade 2, Furious. Direct damage with Rend grants 4 Fury per enemy hit, up to a maximum of 20 Fury. Hammer of the Ancients. Fury cost, 35. Lucky hit chance, 40%. Requirement, two-handed bludgeon weapon. Slam your hammer down with the Fury of the Ancients, dealing 59% damage to a concentrated area. Enhancement. Gain 3% more Fury for 5 seconds for each enemy damaged by Hammer of the Ancients, stacking up to 10 times. Upgrade 1, Violent. After overpowering with Hammer of the Ancients, you deal 30% more damage for 2.5 seconds. Upgrade 2, Furious. Hammer of the Ancient deals 1% additional damage for each point of Fury you had when using it. Upheaval. Fury cost, 40. Lucky hit chance, 20%. Requirement, two-handed weapon. Tear into the ground with your weapon and fling debris forward, dealing 73% damage. Enhancement. Upheaval has a 20% chance to stun all enemies it damages for 2.5 seconds. Upgrade 1, Violent. If Upheaval deals damage to 2 or more enemies, you gain Berserking for 2 seconds, or 3 seconds if it deals damage to 4 or more enemies. Upgrade 2, Furious. Dealing damage to an enemy with a skill that is not Upheaval causes your next cast of Upheaval to deal times 8% increased damage, stacking up to 10 times. Whirlwind. Fury costs 20 per second. Lucky hit chance, 20%. Rapidly attack the surrounding enemies for 12% damage. Enhancement. Gain 1 Fury each time Whirlwind deals direct damage to an enemy, or 3 Fury against elite enemies. Upgrade 1, Violent. After using Whirlwind for 2 seconds, Whirlwind deals times 30% increased damage until it is cancelled. Upgrade 2, Furious. While using a slashing weapon, Whirlwind also inflicts 26% increased bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Double Swing. Fury cost, 25. Lucky hit chance, 30%. Requirement, dual-wielded weapons. Sweep your weapons from opposite directions, dealing 38% damage with each weapon. Enemies caught in the center are damaged by both. Enhancement. If Double Swing damages a stunned or knocked down enemy, gain 25 Fury. Upgrade 1, Violent. Hitting an enemy with both hits of double swing makes them vulnerable for 1 second. Upgrade 2, Furious. Casting double swing while berserking grants 2 additional seconds of berserking. Alright, let's talk about the core cluster passives. Pressure Point, Lucky Hit. Your core skills have up to 10%, 20%, or 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Endless Fury. Basic skills generate times 5%, times 10%, or times 15% more fury when using two-handed weapons. Alright, let's head over to the next node and talk about defensive skills. These skills significantly boost your defensive capabilities. Most of them also allow you to control enemies and increase your Thorn's damage. Rallying Cry. Cooldown 25 seconds. Bellow a Rallying Cry, granting allies plus 30% increased movement speed and times 50% increased resource generation for 6 seconds. Enhancement. Rallying Cry grants Unstoppable while active. Upgrade 1, Tactical. Rallying Cry grants 25 Fury. You gain plus 50% increased resource generation from Rallying Cry. Upgrade 2, Strategic. Rallying Cry grants 10% base life as Fortify. While Rallying Cry is active, you gain an additional 2% base life as Fortify each time you take or deal direct damage. Iron Skin. Cooldown 14 seconds. Steel Yourself. Gaining a barrier that absorbs 50% of your missing life for 5 seconds. Enhancement. Iron Skin absorbs plus 10% more missing life. Upgrade 1, Tactical. While Iron Skin is active, restore life equal to 10% of barrier's original amount per second. Upgrade 2, Strategic. Iron Skin also grants 9% base life as Fortify. Double this amount if cast while below 50% life. Challenging Shout. Cooldown 25 seconds. Taunt nearby enemies and gain times 40% damage reduction for 8 seconds. Enhancement. While Challenging Shout is active, gain times 20% bonus maximum life. Upgrade 1, Tactical. While Challenging Shout is active, you gain 3 Fury each time you take damage. Upgrade 2, Strategic. While Challenging Shout is active, gain Thorns equal to plus 50% of your maximum life. Ground Stomp. Cooldown 16 seconds. Lucky hit chance 33%. Smash the ground, dealing 10% damage and stunning surrounding enemies for 3 seconds. Enhancement. Increase Ground Stomp's duration by 1 second. Upgrade 1, Tactical. Ground Stomp generates 25 Fury. Upgrade 2, Strategic. Reduce the cooldown of your ultimate skills by 1 second for each enemy damaged by Ground Stomp. Alright, let's look at the defensive cluster passive nodes. Imposing Presence. Gain times 5%, times 10%, or times 15% additional maximum life. Martial Vigor. Damage reduction against elites is increased by times 4%, times 8%, times 12%. Requires 1 point in Imposing Presence. Outburst. Gain 2, 4, or 6 Thorns. Also gain 2 Thorns for each 2 bonus maximum life you have. Tough as Nails. Increase your Thorns by plus 20%, plus 40%, or plus 60%. Requires 1 point in Outburst. Alright, let's head over to the next cluster in the skill tree, Brawling Skills. This cluster of skills adds various utility choices to your setup. Generally, you want to choose one of these depending on your build and playstyle to assist either offensively, defensively, or both. War Cry. Cooldown 25 seconds. Bellow a Mighty War Cry. You and nearby allies deal times 15% increased damage for 8 seconds. Enhancement. War Cry grants you berserking for 3 seconds. Upgrade 1, Mighty. War Cry grants 28% base life as Fortify. Upgrade 2, Powerful. If at least 4 enemies are nearby when War Cry is cast, its damage bonus is increased by 15%. Kick. Cooldown 25 seconds. Throw a powerful kick that deals 19% damage and knocks back enemies in front of you. Enemies who are knocked back into terrain take an additional 57% damage and are stunned for 3 seconds. Enhancement. Kick makes enemies it damages vulnerable for 4 seconds. Upgrade 1, Mighty. Kicked enemies deal 54% damage to enemies they collide with while being knocked back. Enemies damaged this way are knocked down for 2 seconds. Upgrade 2, Powerful. If Kick damages an enemy, it consumes all of your fury and deals an additional 41.79% damage per 10 fury spent. Kick no longer knocks back enemies. Leap. Leap forward and then slam down, dealing 34% damage and knocking back surrounding enemies on impact. Enhancement. If Leap doesn't damage any enemies, its cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds. Upgrade 1. Mighty. Enemies damaged by Leap are slowed by 50% for 5 seconds. Upgrade 2. Powerful. If Leap damages at least one enemy, gain 40 Fury. Charge. Cooldown 25 seconds. Become unstoppable and rush forward, pushing enemies with you, then swinging through them for 26% damage and knocking them back. Enhancement. Enemies who are knocked back into terrain by charge take 16% damage and are stunned for 3 seconds. Upgrade 1. Mighty. Damaging enemies with charge makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. Upgrade 2. Powerful. Reduce charge's cooldown by 3 seconds if it knocks back an enemy into terrain. Alright, let's look at the Brawling Cluster's passive nodes. Swiftness. Movement speed is increased by 4%, 8%, or plus 12%. Quick Impulses. Reduces the duration of control impairing effects by times 6%, times 12%, or times 18%. Requires 1 point in swiftness. Aggressive Resistance. Gain times 4%, times 8%, or times 12% damage reduction while berserking. Prolific Fury. While berserking, Fury generation is increased by times 6%, times 12%, or times 18%. Requires 1 point in aggressive resistance. Battle Frenzy. When a brawling skill damages at least one enemy, gain berserking for 1, 2, or 3 seconds. Requires 1 point in aggressive resistance. Booming Voice. Shout skill durations are increased by times 10%, times 20%, or times 30%. Guttural Yell. Your shout skills cause enemies to deal times 8%, times 16%, or times 24% less damage for 5 seconds. Requires 1 point in Booming Voice. Raid Leader. Your shout also heals allies for 1%, 2%, or 3% of their maximum life per second. Requires 1 point in Booming Voice. Alright, let's head over to the next cluster of skills in the skill tree, Weapon Mastery Skills. These skills allow you to master your weapons, dealing devastating damage with cooldown-based attacks. Rupture. Cooldown 15 seconds. Lucky hit chance 50%. Skewer enemies in front of you, dealing 14% damage, then rip your weapon out, damaging enemies for their total bleeding amount and removing all bleeding damage from them. Enhancement. If an enemy dies while being skewered by Rupture, then reset its cooldown. Enemies who survive take times 20% increased bleeding damage for the next 8 seconds. Upgrade 1. Tactical. Killing enemies with Rupture increases your attack speed by plus 20% for 4 seconds. Upgrade 2. Strategic. Enemies killed by Rupture heal you for 15% of your maximum life. Death Blow. Cooldown 15 seconds. Lucky hit chance 50%. Requirement: Slashing Weapon. Attempt a Killing Strike, dealing 126% damage to enemies in front of you. If this kills an enemy, the cooldown is reset. Enhancement. Death Blow deals times 100% increased damage to bosses. Upgrade 1. Tactical. If Death Blow damages at least one enemy, gain Berserking for 3 seconds. Upgrade 2. Strategic. If Death Blow damages at least one enemy, gain 20 Fury. Steel Grasp. Cooldown 11 seconds. Charges 2. Lucky hit chance 25%. Throw out a trio of chains that deal 24% damage and pull in enemies. Enhancement. Steel Grasp also makes enemies vulnerable for 2.5 seconds. Upgrade 1. Tactical. Steel Grasp gains 1 additional charge. Upgrade 2. Strategic. If Steel Grasp damages an enemy, gain Berserking for 2 seconds. Alright, let's take a look at the Weapon Mastery passive nodes. Pit Fighter. You deal times 3%, times 6%, or times 9% increased damage to close enemies and gain 2%, 4%, or 6% distant damage reduction. No Mercy. You deal times 5%, times 9%, or times 13% increased damage against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. Requires 1 point in Pit Fighter. Slaying Strike. You deal times 8%, times 15%, or times 23% increased damage against injured enemies. Requires 1 point in Pit Fighter. Expose Vulnerability. Dealing direct damage with Weapon Mastery skills causes your next core skill to make enemies vulnerable for 1.5, 3, or 4.5 seconds. Requires 1 point in No Mercing or Slaying Strike. Hamstring. Your bleeding effects slow enemies by 10%, 20%, or 30%. Cut to the bone. Your bleeding effects deal times 6%, times 12%, or times 18% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Requires 1 point in hamstring. Thick skin. Each time you take direct damage, gain 0.4%, 0.7%, or 1.1% base life as fortifier. Counter offensive. While fortified for over 50% of your maximum life, you deal times 5%, times 10%, or times 15% increased damage. Requires 1 point in thick skin. Defensive posture. Increase the damage reduction gained while you are fortified by an additional +3, +6, or +9%. Requires 1 point in thick skin. Alright, let's head to the ultimate skill cluster on the skill tree. Ultimates are high impact abilities with a long cooldown and need to be built around to be effective. So not every build runs one of these skills. Only one ultimate can be chosen and only have a single rank with a 2-step linear upgrade path that offers no additional choices. Wrath of the Berserker. Cooldown 60 seconds. Gain Berserking and Unstoppable for 5 seconds. For the next 10 seconds, dealing direct damage with basic skills grants Berserking for 5 seconds. Upgrade 1, Supreme. While Wrath of the Berserker is active, gain plus 20% increased movement speed and increased Fury generation by times 30%. Upgrade 2, Prime. While Wrath of the Berserker is active, every 50 Fury you spend increases Berserk's damage bonus by times 25%. Iron Maelstrom. Cooldown 60 seconds. Activate to attach a chain to your 2-handed bludgeon weapon and slam the ground, dealing 63% damage and stunning them for 2 seconds. Reactivate it a second time to attach a chain to your 2-handed slashing weapon and swipe it in front of you, dealing 21% damage and 126% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Reactivate a final time to attach a chain to your dual-wielding weapons and swing them around you, dealing 34% damage per hit. Upgrade 1, Supreme. Iron Maelstrom gains plus 10% increased critical strike chance and deals times 20% increased critical strike damage. Upgrade 2, Prime. Dealing direct damage to an enemy after swapping weapons reduces Iron Maelstrom's cooldown by 1 second. Call of the Ancients. Cooldown 50 seconds. Call upon 3 Ancients to aid you in battle for 6 seconds. Korlik leaps at enemies, dealing 80% damage and swings his weapon in a frenzy, dealing 30% damage per hit. Talik spins in a whirlwind, rapidly attacking enemies for 50% damage. Madok upheaves the ground, dealing 150% damage. Upgrade 1, Prime. While Call of the Ancients is active, gain plus 10% increased attack speed and times 10% increased damage. Upgrade 2, Supreme. Each of the Ancients gains an additional power. Korlik. You gain 10 Fury each time Korlik damages an enemy with Frenzy. Talik. Enemies are slowed by 50% for 1 second when damaged by his whirlwind. Madok. 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds when using his upheaval. Alright, let's talk about the ultimate cluster passive nodes. Wallop. Your skills using bludgeon weapons deal times 5, times 10, or times 15% increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable. Concussion. Lucky hit. Skills using bludgeon weapons have up to a 10%, 20%, or 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds, or up to a 15, 30, or 45% chance when using a 2-handed bludgeon weapon. Requires 1 point in Wallop. Heavy-handed. While using 2-handed weapons, you deal times 5, times 10, or times 15% increased critical strike damage. Brute Force. Your overpowered damage deals times 15%, times 30%, or times 45% increased damage when using a 2-handed weapon. Requires 1 point in Wallop or Heavy-handed. Duelist. Attack speed is increased by plus 3, plus 6, or plus 9% while using one-handed weapons. Tempered Fury. Increase your maximum Fury by 3, 6, or 9. Invigorating Fury. Heals you for 2%, 4%, or 6% of your maximum life for each 100 Fury spent. Requires 1 point in Tempered Fury. Furious Impulse. Each time you swap weapons, gain 2, 4, or 6 Fury. Requires 1 point in Tempered Fury. Ultimate Passives. These passives are located at the very bottom of the skill tree. and couldn't be reached in the preview version. They're extremely powerful and define the overall playstyle of your build. Similar to ultimate skills, only one of them can be chosen, so choose wisely. Unconstrained. Increase Berserking's maximum duration by 5 seconds and increase its damage bonus by times 25%. Walking Arsenal. Dealing direct damage with a two-handed bludgeon, two-handed slashing, or dual-wielded weapons grants times 10% increased damage for 6 seconds. While all 3 damage bonuses are active, you gain an additional times 15% increased damage. Unbridled Rage. Core skills deal times 135% increased damage, but cost times 100% more. Gushing Wound. Killing a bleeding enemy creates an explosion that inflicts 12% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Alright, let's briefly talk about attributes. The 4 core attributes provide the following to the Barbarian. Strength. Skill damage, 10% per 100. Armor, 1 each. Intelligence. All resistance, 5% per 100. Willpower. Resource generation, 10% per 100. Healing received, 10% per 100. Overpower damage, 25% per 100. Dexterity. Critical strike chance, 2% per 100, and dodge chance, 2.5% per 100. Strength is considered the main attribute, as it multiplies all of your damage done. Dexterity and willpower are also useful for their offensive and defensive bonuses, while intelligence does next to nothing. Alright, let's talk about legendary aspects. Legendary aspects offer another important avenue of build customization. They can either be found as a legendary item drop or imprinted on a rare item at the occultist. Aspects with dynamic values are plus 100% effective on two-handed weapons and plus 50% effective on amulets. The Codex of Power is also important here. It's a collection of legendary powers that the occultist can freely craft on any rare or legendary item for a cost. Each power has to be unlocked by completing a specific dungeon once, and always comes with their minimum value if they have a dynamic value. As of right now, most maximum values are unknown, and they're not in this list. Certain effects with flat damage, life, or barrier values scale either with character level or item power. Bull Kathos. Leap creates an earthquake that deals physical damage over 4 seconds. While standing in earthquakes, you gain 5% increased damage reduction. Numbing Wrath. Each point of fury generated while at maximum fury grants Fortify. Tempering Blows. After swapping weapons 6 times, gain Fortify. Iron Warrior. Iron Skin also makes you unstoppable. Ancestral Echoes. Lucky Hit. Damaging enemies with Leap, Upheaval, or Whirlwind has up to a 40% chance to summon an Ancient to perform the same skill. Can only happen once every 5 seconds. Ancestral Force. Hammer of the Ancients quakes outward, dealing 32% of its damage to enemies. Berserk Ripping. Whenever you deal direct damage while berserking, inflict 22% of the base damage dealt as additional bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Brawlers. Enemies damaged by kick or charge will explode if they're killed within the next 2 seconds, dealing damage to nearby enemies. Death Wish. Gain thorns while berserking. Quickening Pulse. Lucky Strike. Up to a 20% chance to reduce the cooldowns of your non-ultimate skills by 1.5 seconds when you inflict bleeding on elites. Dire Whirlwind. Whirlwind's critical strike chance is increased by 5% for each second it is channeled, up to 20%. Veteran Brawler. Each time a core skill deals direct damage to an enemy, your next charge or leap deals times 15% increased damage, up to 225%. Wind Striker. After swapping weapons 6 times, gain plus 20% increased attack speed for 4 seconds. Echoing Fury. Your shout skills generate 2.0 fury per second while active. Slacking. Lucky Hit. You have up to a 30% chance to gain 20 fury when Ren deals direct damage to at least 1 bleeding enemy. Relentless Arms Master. Gain times 20% increased fury generation while all damage bonuses from Walking Arsenal are active. Unrelenting Fury. Killing an enemy with core skills refunds 10% of its base fury cost. Can only happen once per skill cast. Anemia. Lucky Hit. Direct damage against bleeding enemies has up to a 31% chance to stun them for 2 seconds. Relentless Berserkers. Lucky Hit. Damaging an enemy with a core skill has up to a 22% chance to extend the duration of berserking by 1 second. Double this duration if it was a critical strike. Perpetual Stomping. Damaging an enemy with kick or ground stomp resets Leap's cooldown. Alright, let's take a brief look at unique items. Now, we've only seen 2 unique items for Barbarian so far, but we're going to expect that later on that there are going to be many more. The Butcher's Cleaver. This is an axe. Immobilize your target for 1.0 to 3.0 seconds when you critically strike. This has a few set stats: 2.0 to 4.5% attack speed, plus 6.5 to 11.5% damage to healthy enemies, plus 4.5 to 7.5% damage while healthy. Lucky hit. 5% chance to heal 35 to 57. A nightmarish amalgam of blood, bone, and steel. This axe is as horrific and as deadly as its creator. The Melted Heart of Selig. This is an amulet. Its unique effect: gain plus 100% bonus maximum resource. In addition, when you take damage, drain 3.0 to 6.0 resource for every 1% of life you would have lost instead. Its stats are 4.5 to 8.5% damage reduction, plus 4.5 through 8.5% cooldown reduction, and plus 3.0 to 6.0% critical strike chance, and plus 6 to 10 all stats. Do not allow your passions to become obsessions. Fuel the fire that burns within you, but it is madness to allow yourself to become ash to please an uncaring universe. The last words of Master Selig. All right, that covers everything that we know about the Barbarian so far in Diablo 4. If you made it this far in the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.